Welcome and thank you for joining us. I'm Alvaro Vitta, Global Cybersecurity Lead for Microsoft Public Sector. Today, I'm honored to speak with the UK's National Health Service, a cornerstone in protecting public health and sensitive data. As generative AI transforms the data landscape, building a skilled security operations center workforce is critical to defending against sophisticated threats. In this conversation, we'll explore how the NHS is scaling cyber skills, leveraging automation and AI to strengthen SOC capabilities, and driving collective defense across agencies. We'll also discuss lessons from centralization, the role of cloud and AI in workforce readiness, and the evolving skills needed for modern SOCs in an AI-driven world. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce my guest, Ryan Lee, the National SOC Lead for the NHS.
Hello.
To start, Ryan, could you provide some context for our international audience? How large is NHS? What do you do? How many people do you serve? And just give an overview of your role. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm Ryan Lee. I'm in charge of the kind of national SOC for the NHS. And I predominantly deal with the operational side of that, and I'll talk more to my role later on in the webinar. The NHS is the national health system for England. So it's across the UK, but my responsibility is for England, and that is essentially a philosophy that anyone who lives in England is entitled to free healthcare. So that equates to around 60 million people are receiving healthcare from the National Health Service. Now, from a cybersecurity perspective and from a digital perspective, people kind of go, oh, well, they're the people that kind of help fix arms, right, and give us medical treatment in hospitals. But the digital footprint to enable that to happen across kind of 400 NHS trusts, 1,000 hospitals, all with technology, like millions of endpoints, like laptops, stuff like that in those hospitals, it's mammoth. And we have to provide that kind of cybersecurity capability to protect that. So you're talking kind of in the kind of scale of kind of how we operate. We have about 1.9 million employees in NHS England alone, and all of those have devices. So we're talking around 2.5 million devices, 1.9 million identities that the cyber team have to go and protect. We use kind of some of our strategic tools such as Defender, Sentinel, XDR, like those kind of capabilities to span across all those hospitals and provide that central form of defense from the CSOC here in Leeds. How that actually looks from kind of something that people resonate at home, we have stuff like the NHS application. Now, those 60 million people will have accounts on that NHS application, access their health record, communicate with doctors, GPs, surgeons, stuff like that. So some of those kind of the stats and statistics around those digital footprint, we have more transactions a second than MasterCard does globally in the NHS application. So there's absolutely huge amounts of data that we're having to protect to make sure that mission happens, to provide that free healthcare to those 60 million people. So how big it is it's a huge effort to be able to achieve that.
It sounds like a lot of work, so we appreciate your service. And how many hospitals in total are you serving across England?
So there's 1,000 hospitals in England alone, and that's not including Scotland and Wales, and that they make up the UK. So we have our counterparts in those countries that all kind of entwine to us. So it's even bigger for the whole health system for the UK. But we have 1,000. We're the biggest, and for one of our tenants to enable that to happen, right? Because it's not just the hospitals, it's the suppliers and those that provide like stuff, anything from your wheelchair operators to be able to get that patient into the hospital. That equates to around 40,000 organizations access some of our systems. So again, a huge number that we have to kind of interconnect with and make sure that we're secure to protect that patient data.
No, that's awesome. And so when you look at the scale of what you're doing, I would assume that automation plays a big factor, Gen AI and a lot of the things that you do around Security Operations Center. What would you say are some of the best practices that you find are useful in scaling and looking for force multipliers in such a large operations, as well as skilling your workforce that helps you, maintain and operate this large ecosystem?
Yeah, so to talk about skilling our workforce in the first place, our we have a kind of an approach where we to do it at such a large scale of a stock as ours, you have to have those fundamentals in place, right? So we make sure that we identify our roles and the critical kind of training pipelines we need for them. What training is going to help them to do the job they do. We utilize the enterprise skills initiative and stuff like that to help, like, obviously Microsoft run to help that kind of vendor specific training. But we essentially look at the role and look at all the different training needs they need to be able to achieve that role. But you have to also recognize people are different. And as a leader, you have to recognize that and help them to learn and use this technology, right? So we use stuff like on the job training, webinars. We look at like hackathons and how we can get people to innovate on using the technology that we need to be able to achieve that goal. I worked probably 5 years in the innovation team. The most I learned from is absolutely doing on the job training, right? Having a lab environment where I can go and test stuff like Gen AI, logic apps, automation to achieve that goal. Like, it enables me to practice there. With the force multipliers and how we achieve such scale from us, we absolutely leverage automation. We're looking at how we experiment with AI and how we can help with that. How I see that sitting and how that works alongside our analysts is helping it to filter out the noise. So the CSOC itself, the alerts that we receive sometimes like 40,000 alerts within any 1 month that we have to triage and work out whether that's malicious or not, right? And if you can have numerous teams of analysts going through that kind of quantity of alerts, you get alert blindness. You get used to it. You start to make mistakes because you're doing the same thing over and over again. And that for us is where the biggest part we see AI and automation helping us to do those tasks that we otherwise wouldn't want to repeat and continually do, to enable the analyst then to go and concentrate on the smaller yield of alerting and actually have those thorough investigations and the things that matter. So that's one of the key points. One of the areas that we try and push is having that automation culture. So I've done this 3 or 4 times now. Like, I don't want to be doing it again. Like, we actually use we've kind of taken the model of the red canary detection engine and going, actually, this is a false positive. We want to be able to deal with this in some way, whether that's suppression rules, whether that's putting in a logic app to be able to do some automation to go and enrich or change the state of that alert, whether it's then Gen AI then provides that extra context to the analyst, enable them to close it quicker, right? So we're trying to push an automation culture to help us deal with that yield. I want my team to be around dealing with probably 10% of the capacity that the tooling actually puts out, and the other 90% to be automated.
That's a good goal, 90% automation. When you look at skilling, and especially, in cybersecurity right now, there's about 4.8 million open cybersecurity jobs. So I'm sure it's not easy for you to recruit people. And so can you tell us a little bit, and share with others how you go about recruiting and either reskilling, so internally, so grabbing people from the internal side of NHS. Maybe you have a SQL database administrator or somebody doing something else that is not cyber, and how you bring them into cyber, one, and then two, any kind of potential partnerships that you have with local universities or colleges that help you identify new talent that you can then bring in and start skilling up to become cyber defenders.
Yeah, so whenever I kind of approach this, I've always had a kind of mindset that we wanted a diverse team here to be able to counter those diverse threats, right? So where people come from, kind of all their different kind of diverse attributes, all kind of ultimately contribute to that diverse mindset of how they look and do things. And that's what we're trying to embrace and bring into the CSOC, because then it means we have a different set of minds that can go and achieve those goals, and we can achieve them in different ways, which ultimately we want. We don't want robots to do the same thing over and over again. We want to leverage that and the automation AI to do those things. So we're quite lucky. We have people from all sorts of different backgrounds here. We've recruited from the police force. We've had teachers. We've had challenges in that space. I'm not gonna lie and say actually you can come straight from the police force and become a head of cybersecurity. Some of them have had to take some steps down, but then have had an accelerated career upwards to those leadership positions where ultimately they've been able to thrive and deliver that kind of diversity of talent into the CSOC. So absolutely, we've reached out to multiple sectors. I myself am from the military, and I'm now into healthcare and providing those services. We absolutely have recruitment programs internal where we try and identify those different characteristics. And again, it's trying to push into when you're recruiting those people, when you ask them questions, don't have such a rigid spec of questions for that interview, right? You want to be able to go, actually, can I teach this person cyber, and can they bring something new to my team? So we take that opportunity to how we recruit. Where we've had some of our best talent, it has been from our graduate schemes. So we've managed to go into we bring in graduate schemes into the NHS where people have that kind of, we will train you for 2 years and then you will get a certain grade of role after that training. and they actually go around the whole of our business. They don't start in cybersecurity, or they don't have the full 2 years in cybersecurity. They'll go into our kind of our data analytics team. They'll go into different areas of transformation and data to learn those skills, and then bring them back to us. Not only do they bring different skills, but they also go, hey, you can leverage this team over here to do that thing that you've got dedicated people to. They actually give us that business awareness as well. So these are different things we're doing. We're definitely learning how to do it better. Like every day is a learning day for us in this space, and we face the normal challenges that businesses do right around recruitment. Sometimes it's recruitment freezes. Sometimes you have to go other places to find that talent. But we've absolutely leveraged stuff like apprenticeships, graduate schemes, and those things to bring in those universities. And just final on this, we also have those outreach programs, right? Going and telling people about the NHS, how big we are, that kind of 1.8 million devices we're protecting, that resonates with university students and kind of makes them actually, I want to be part of that CSOC. So it's definitely important to do those outreach programs to those universities.
That is awesome. Yeah. And one of the things that we see with other organizations like yourself is they tend to use, the tools in Gen AI to help bring, expedite junior cyber defenders, right? And you pair a junior person with a Gen AI, let's say assistant, to try and speed up that learning process, speed up that upskilling process. Is that something that you yourself use internally as a mechanism?
Yeah, I want to say in a different way. We are different. We the way that the NHS is structured, we have that central CSOC that provides those cybersecurity services to the NHS, but those 400 organisations we're providing those security services to have people in them as well. They have cyber staff there, and we're looking at how AI can help us in different places. So whether actually I want to do some more shiny advanced stuff with AI to help with that kind of threat detection in the central SOC, but actually then can I have AI sit alongside those junior defenders that maybe have 3 or 4 different jobs? They might be putting a laptop on a GP's desk one day, but actually then they've got an alert from me saying you need to respond to this cyber threat, and actually how to upskill them. So actually the biggest thing I see Gen AI helping to upskill them is actually in the moment, right? You had this alert from the CSOC, it means this, and this is what you should do about it, and then being able to validate that and move on. And that's where I see we're pushing a lot of our training courses is actually, can we get that Gen AI to the front line? And then how do we get that front line to actually know how to use that AI tool to help support them? And when actually maybe you do get hallucinations, stuff like you need to be able to validate that as well and remove that from that context. So that's where I see the biggest bang for the buck for us. We've got some really skilled analysts here in the centre, and we want to be pushing AI to that more advanced level for us. But yeah, that's kind of where I'd see the best benefit for us.
No, that's great, and that's what we also see. We see, what we call Gen AI capabilities, but human augmented, where you have a human in the middle, always working with the Gen AI assistant to make sure that the best decisions are taken. When you look at your retention, because it's hard enough to get people, as you said, you train them for 2 years. What are some of the practices or tips that you can give others around how to keep staff motivated, especially in cybersecurity, right? You have young talent, the market is hot, there's not a lot of people out there that are ready to jump into the cyber world. So I'm sure that makes it hard for you. So maybe you can share with us some of those tips.
Yeah, and a philosophy of mine is I'm in an organisation where I don't look at the clock and think, oh gosh, I wish another 5 hours left. I look at the clock and go, oh god, it's 6 o'clock at night, and I've not done any work I need to do today. So like that's a big thing, right? I really think, and I say to my staff, like if you look at the clock and you're not bored and you've got stuff to do, that's a great sign. That's great, and that's my kind of human element trying to retain people, right? But that only goes so far. The NHS itself. We struggle to retain people because the CSOC especially, we're working at such a scale and learning so many new things. We're working on some of the best and greatest technologies that those people are learning excellent, amazing skills that are then attractive to the private sector and that can ultimately pay more money than we can the public. So it's a huge problem that I've got. Um, Keeping the work interesting. So, and that's where Gen AI and automation plays its place, right? There's 40,000 alerts. If my team are triaging the same alerts every single day, they're going to be looking at that clock and going, "Oh gosh, it's only 12 o'clock.
Right.
I need to be 5." But if they're doing those really detailed, thorough investigations that are actually thrilling and interesting, and maybe catching some more advanced threats and learning something new every single day, then they're going to be getting to the 5 o'clock and actually thinking, "Well, actually, this has been a great day. I've learned something new, and I want to move on." And that's what I want my team to be doing. I don't want them triaging the same alerts, and that's where automation and AI plays its place for me. The The other thing is I call out, and it's not technology specific, but it's actually the mission. Like, we're protecting cyber threats that save people's lives. If a hospital goes down, cancer treatments stop, surgeries stop. Like, ambulances don't get to those houses on time to provide that critical care to those patients. And ultimately, that resonates with them, and it also resonates with why we need to be leveraging tools and technologies such as automation and AI to make sure we can respond as fastly as possible to enable those missions to continue. And that is the one biggest thing as well. On top of that is what we do here is important, and that really does resonate with our staff and that retention.
No, that's great, and that's what I see as well across the world, where the combination of what you just said, which is, cyber defenders tend to be mission oriented, so there has to be a purpose and a mission around what they do, right, to keep them driven, and two, having those leading edge technology environments like you have that allows the mission to be achieved, right? And to be properly operationalized and be efficient. And so it looks like that is the combination that works well beyond, the other elements like the money and all this other stuff. No, so that's great. What? So you have a centralized mechanism, right? You have a centralized SOC. You have over 1,000 tenants, 1,000 different entities that you are supporting. What are some of the advantages that you see, that if you were to share with others around the world, of centralizing security operations centers in public healthcare, as an example?
Yeah, so we we are what we've achieved here with having that central SOC is we probably have more healthcare signals or cybersecurity healthcare signals than anyone in globally, right? We've got so much data that we can triage and go through. And the concept in the UK government kind of cybersecurity strategy is called Defenders One. And the idea is essentially for us, how that resonates with us in that central SOC is how we can learn from cybersecurity incidents that happen at one hospital, one NHS trust. Maybe they have an attack there, right? We can take that attack information, we can bring it into our central SOC, and we can build threat detections, we can build automations, we can extract indicators and intelligence, and then push that back out to the system, right? So one attacker gets into one hospital, immediately after that, our 1,000 hospitals have protections in place. They have threat hunters tearing through timelines, working out what's gone on, what's happened here, and pushing all those behavioral kind of anomaly detections out to those data sets that we've got access to. And that for us is the kind of one of the biggest advantages of having a central SOC. We can respond so quickly. The other thing is, and we're kind of we've had the kind of statistics from our government as like being one of the quickest people to respond. Like the NHS itself is good at response. We're designed to keep people alive. So actually that's built into our culture of something bad's happened. Let's get out there. Let's go deal with it. Let's be agile and make sure we can respond and recover as quickly as possible. We're very focused to response. So within the central SOC, we've got some very, very highly skilled SMEs, and we are baking in novel ways of connecting to that system, providing them the education and stuff they need. But we're able to use that centralized capability and deploy it immediately to those cyber threats. And if you had that disparate across the 1,000 organizations, they had all their own cyber teams, they won't be able to learn as quickly as we can centrally. And that's really the big bit, right? We're kind of that beating heart of that body, that pulse of that effort, and we provide that in. So that is one of the biggest advantages that we think we have. We have got other technologies in place that we've now learned to leverage this. So we have a centralized threat intelligence sharing platform. So alongside that, those lessons and indicators, we can push them out now via our platform to those hospitals, to all those organizations, and they all can receive it, process it, and automatically use that intelligence. But we've also got a for loop back. So actually, if those organizations find intelligence locally, they can actually share that back with us and push that back into the system. And then essentially we can reprocess and push that back out to every other organization, right? So if one hospital knows something, my team can receive it and send it back out. And again, that's a huge advantage, right? That kind of intelligence mission on a national scale just by having that one central CSOC.
No, that's great. And really what you're doing is amazing, and is something that the rest of countries around Europe and in Asia and in the Americas are also trying to do. They're trying to, essentially what you've done is operationalize what we call collective cyber defense, right? Where you are able to not only share signals and intelligence and threats with the collective thousand entities that you are supporting, but also they are sharing with you. And that collective learning, that collective cyber defense ecosystem is what creates that sphere of protection, right? Of always not leaving any kind of blind spot open. And so that is an incredible way, and that's, in my mind, that's the only way that you can uh, try to protect these organizations rather than do it one at a time, which is really hard, right? Because the nation state threat actors out there have incredible amount of capabilities, incredible amount of investment and sophistication. So unless sectors like you come together to be able to collectively defend, there is not really a chance that organizations have on their own. So the power is in that union that you have. So I commend you for that. So thank you for your answer. Now, when you look at the skills, right, that are essential for operating a modern SOC in 2025 in the Gen AI era, that leverages, as you're using, right, you're leveraging cloud infrastructure, you're leveraging Gen AI power threat detection through that security stack. What are some of the skills that are essential if you were advising, new people that are trying to get into this particular field and wanted to be part of your team or something similar?
Yeah, so for people trying to get into our team, I always kind of encourage that investigative mindset, right? You need to, you want to go and, like, the thing that resonates to me is someone says to me, Ryan, I've been trying to get cybersecurity for a long time, and I'm doing all this stuff in my own time to make sure that happens. I'm reading the latest threat reports and doing that. I'm doing some hack the box or whatever the kind of those you kind of freely available kind of tools are to go and learn cybersecurity. That immediately resonates with me because it shows someone's got an attitude. They actually want to actually get in this field and break in. So that's a huge win straight away. After that, it's then okay. Well, you're proactive. You're keen. You're going to go out there and find that information. Great. But what we're moving more towards now as well, alongside this, is we're trying to build that kind of automation culture, right? I think it's a critical skill now to be a SOC analyst, to be a SOC. You need to be able to identify. I'm not saying you have to go and be a full-fledged developer, but what you need to be able to do is identify those opportunities to automate and leverage tools like AI. You need to. I don't need you to do it every single time. You need to know when actually this is going to apply and how you think we should go about it, and then maybe we then get an engineering team to support you and implement that solution, right? So for me, it's a big thing about dealing with the scale I deal with is we need an automation culture. I want people that can do some very interim basic coding, and not just so you can automate things, but also when those attackers are using code or scripts or AI to attack you, you need to be able to identify that and be able to respond in kind. So I think automation and coding and skills like that are critical, but I'd say they're a baseline skill set that supplement that cybersecurity investigative capability that you've got as well. So that's a big element for me. I don't try and tie people down to any one skill set because, like I've said, I'm trying to pull from these different areas of the market to have that diversity within the team. So some will come up to me and go, actually, I'm really good with languages. Like, and I'm actually, well, you'd be really great in the threat intelligence team. You can read Russian. Great. We can gain threat intelligence about what the language the threat actors are using. Like, we've actually had people where we've maybe identified a Russian-speaking attacker, and actually they've had a keyboard set to a certain way, and we want someone to translate that. So again, that's a completely different skill set you wouldn't put on a job advert for a cybersecurity analyst, but that brings into that team, right? So I won't limit it, but definitely that mindset, that proactive nature, that being able to go and run an investigation and ultimately be able to automate things and use the latest and bleeding edge tooling would be my key asks.
Yeah, and you're right. And I mean, especially these days, it's really hard to identify what is real versus fake in terms of Gen AI, right? Where you can have all kinds of Gen AI risks, such as prompt injection, data leakage, jailbreaks, vulnerabilities in the model itself, data poisoning. And so what happens is that having that diverse background, like you said, is incredibly important because you don't just need somebody who's technology savvy. You need somebody that is has some sense of knowledge around anthropology. So somebody from social sciences that is able to identify, what is real versus fake look like, or when somebody's saying the truth versus lying, or when somebody looks nefarious versus good intentions, and so on and so forth. So I think this is a great approach that you have in having that diverse ecosystem of people to pull from. Now, how do you evaluate and certify, if you're certified, SOC teams' readiness, right, for an AI augmented environment, right? What kind of learning paths, what kind of certifications do you recommend, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, and we've actually we're in a transition phase for this actually of like, do we set those, and we still have those set training pipelines. We're identifying the best courses whether we feel like are relevant to us. So we've absolutely, on the name of the vendors, we've absolutely tried some of the SANS AI courses. We've absolutely leveraged some of the Microsoft Enterprise Skills Initiative learning and Copilot kind of training, vendor specific stuff for some of the tools we actually use day to day as well. So we definitely got a broad range of training courses we've tried. We had that kind of framework in place, that training framework as well, but we're also starting to empower people to push their own careers and their own learning development as well, alongside that, right? Because I give someone a structure thing, I think this is what's good for your role, but actually, do I also give them the ability for someone else to go, I think this course will be relevant, Ryan, for my development and for these reasons, and that's something else we're starting to explore here in the NHS, is empowering people to pursue their own career and pursue their own learning and knowledge, and to help that as well. But with the certification element, ultimately you always have to train to a certain standard, especially when you've got customers such as ours, right? There's 400 organizations. I can't have people doing courses that just on random stuff. I have to be able to prove that evidence, right? So we have people doing courses from assurance courses, especially in AI, stuff like that, right? We have to make sure what we're doing is safe and how we operate. We have people that do clinical courses to actually understand the business that we're in. We need to know actually those signals come from this clinical device, and it means this, or this is the impact of the patient if something goes wrong, and actually this is normal. These devices operate this way, so we've got clinical courses and stuff like that as well. So a whole range. We try all sorts of different things. We absolutely have frameworks and stuff that we attest to our customers as well, that we meet, and they are your normal things you'd expect, right? We use your reputable training providers such as SANS. We use your very specific courses in Copilot and Microsoft. Like every one of my analysts, we use Sentinel as a SEAM, has SC200. I make them go through it as a start. So we use those vendor specific stuff for the tooling that we use as well. So sorry, it's quite a diverse answer, quite a range of answers, but we are heavily invested in training, and we're still trying to get it right in how we best utilize and kind of get the efficient outcomes from that.
No, that's a great approach. I mean, you want a combination of, technology-centric specializations. In this case, for example, you're using Microsoft, and that's great. But you also want a 360-degree diverse
Correct.
training around security as a whole, right? Beyond just technology-specific vendors. So that's a great mix. Now, when you look at your modernization journey of your security operations center, the centralization journey that you've done, what would you say are some of the key insights that skilling initiatives have helped you improve your incident response and resilience?
I mean, capitalizing on lessons learned is probably one of our biggest things, right? Like people say to me about, well, how often do you red team and stuff like that? Well, we have an incident like every month. We always have stuff that we're going through, like through major incidents, and even not, we're training in it. So having a good lessons learned process is one of the biggest things that we probably failed to have in place at the start, and quickly learned that, hey, we've been making these mistakes over and over again. Not what's going on here. So I'd say a key lessons learned process for dealing with and accrediting ourselves at the major level like we are as well, is there's a huge pace of change. You need to be able to keep up with that pace of change, and we've been through various programs to try and make it so we can move as agile with the times to be able to get the things in place that we need to keep up with that pace of change. And I'm talking like blaming Microsoft a little bit. Your tool keeps advancing all the time, and that has an impact on us, on the skills the analysts need, the actual tools, that the ecosystem around that to keep up with it. And we've been learning the hard way of, actually, if we don't keep up with that pace of change, you have so much further to run when you have to. So yeah, I'd say one of my key insights is to be keeping up that pace of change and making sure that I like to say, jump, don't be pushed. So I think that's one of my key bits.
No, that's awesome. And I'm sure that doing that allows you to keep that cybersecurity workforce you have remain agile and ready, right, for future innovations. And I mean, they say 2025 is the year of agentic AI, and when you combine the speed of Gen AI innovation and the fact that cybersecurity is constantly changing and adapting. I mean, there's not time for a dull moment here. It's always going to be dynamic and fun. So,
One of the key things we're doing here, right, is that the attackers got Gen AI as well, right, and they can attack us. Their pace of change is also increasing, right, and how quickly and the route to market and path to change. AI is enabling them to move quicker. I'd say that the key thing from us is also allow your blue team to move quicker. So we've got a test bed and an environment where people can mess around with automation, mess around with AI. We don't silo them and say, actually, this is your AI tool. We've got that. If they want to use Copilot, they can do. If they want to use some other AI solution, maybe something to develop themselves, they have the ability to do that within their test environment. And I'd say empower them and then work out how you assure it afterwards and how you actually provide that safety and protection around that AI. Because if they've got a test and safe environment where they can do that work, that's what we're doing to try and upskill our blue team and our capabilities to keep up with the attackers.
no, that's great that you allow them to tinker and always think outside of the proverbial box, right? So that is fantastic that you empower them that way. Well, Ryan, this has been very, very insightful. For those inspired by your journey, what advice would you give to other public sector organizations seeking to learn from your experience and adopt a similar approach?
Um, so especially in the size that we're operating now, you need to be ready for that and have that buy-in from the start. Your business needs to realize what we're doing isn't cheap. You're going to need a budget to do it. So one of the big things is that organizational buy-in. You need the right people, you need the right finances, you need the right tools in place if you want to operate in a scale and do this properly. If not, you're going to be struggling. Um, the other thing is to have that key architectural blueprint in your mind of what you want to achieve, because you don't want to when you're developing at scale, you push out to those organizations. You don't want to be regretting it after organizational 10 and you or 20 or 30, or when you're 100 in and you go, actually need to make a big change. So you need to have that architectural blueprint that you know is going to be able to scale. It's going to be able to be agile for the future. You need to be able to change, and you need to be able to essentially do all of that. So I think they're the key things for me: is organizational buy-in, having the right people that can do the job that you need them to do, and be able to recruit them and retain them, and then having that strategy and that architecture in place to be able to achieve something at the scale that we've got.
No, thank you, Ryan. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your learnings, the battle scars that have led to that learning, of course, because none of these journeys are easy and straightforward. And we really value the service that you're providing to the healthcare sector in England, because not only are you helping the English ecosystem be safer, but also you are helping others learn from you vicariously through your learning. So we appreciate that. It's clear that cultivating a skilled, adaptable SOC workforce is fundamental to protecting public sector systems and ensuring their resilience against emerging threats. So for those eager to deepen their expertise and prepare for the future of cyber defense, I encourage you to explore our worldwide learning skilling collection focused on public sector, cybersecurity, and Gen AI readiness. These curated learning paths, certifications, and resources are designed to help teams stay ahead of evolving risks and technologies. Ryan, thank you again, and thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Thank you.